Is this working? Is it working? Really? I can't hear it. Good morning. Hi, Bob. How are you? Wait a minute. It's wet out there. Yeah. This is too good.
Let me bring them to you.
Are you serious?
Wheels, it's not a big wheel.
You have all the secrets. Thank you. That is perfect because that's really what I need. Let me see if this is working. Hello. Ah, there it is. Good morning. Good Shabbos, everybody. Hi. I am so surprised that you're all here. I figured everybody would tune into Zoom this morning. It's not fun out there. And if you waited in your car, like I did, for just a few minutes for the rain to subside, it only got worse. So, yeah, you are such a hardy group of people. I have some things for you. So good morning, everybody. Good Shabbos. I have to tell you, this is a thrill, I have to tell you. You're all listening to this side of the room. I think I'm going to move a little bit. Oh. I should have figured it out. You're all closer to the food. Here, I don't want to feel quite so far away. But I do have notes, and I just like to have them in front of me in a coherent way. I seem to be on something of a. No, I'm not. I thought I was restricted, but I'm not. Here we go. I can go even a little further. Yeah. Oh gosh, Zoomies. Hi, wherever you are. Hello. And they can't exactly tell us. It's that camera. Yes. Vivian? It was David. Okay. Thank you. Say it again. I just have the loud mouth. Oh, but he had they make the best team, I tell you. All right, I'm coming back. This is a little silly, I suppose. I hope, I should be okay. This should be good. Anyway, good morning, good Shabbos. I'd like to, first of all, acknowledge the bagel sponsor for this morning is Jean Dreifert. Jean, raise your hand. Jean, raise your hand. Raise your hand, okay? And our bagel pickup person, without whom we would not be sitting here enjoying the gift, is Carol Marshall. So Carol, raise your hand. Thank you. We are delighted that you did that. There's some other things besides bagels here. Does that just happen?
Last night.
It's last night. You get left.
Recognize it
From Shabbat, from the Oneg Shabbat. So does that happen every week or just sometimes?
Sometimes if there's anything left over.
If the locusts leave anything. Okay. Anyway, so please, we have, hopefully we will now subsidize the food for our bodies with our food for our spirits. And in order to do that, let us join together in the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So we thank God for the privilege and the mitzvah of studying, of dealing, of engaging in the words of Torah. And I also just want to say thank you for this opportunity to be with you because it's very exciting for me. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that today in the diaspora calendar for traditional Jews is, anybody want to offer a guest? It's second day Shavuot. So we could be greeting each other Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, if we wanted to. But for us, it's really not the second day, so it would be a little bit of a stretch to do that. However, it does present us with an interesting situation. If you looked on the Jewish calendar today for the Torah portion, anybody do that? To check what the Torah portion was. Lorenda, you're shaking, you're nodding your head. It would be different. It says what? I'm sorry? Naso, you're thinking. Naso, you've got a Reformed Jewish calendar. You went to services last. He's getting it from the services. Okay, but if you look, Jordan, you're cheating. No, and that's not true. If you looked at and most Jewish calendars, which are created for everybody, would say not Naso this morning. Anybody know what it would say? Really, very simply, it would say second day Shavuot. Is what it would say. Second day Shavuot. Now, which means that there is a special Torah reading if we were observing the second day of Shavuot. For some of you who are not entirely familiar with how the Jewish calendar works, for us, on the first morning of Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot, if they fell on Shabbat, which they frequently do, we would not be reading the Torah portion of that week. We would be reading the special Torah portion, the special Torah reading assigned for that Shabbat. And it is out of order. Sometimes people will ask, why in April, when we are celebrating Passover, are we reading in the Torah Leviticus, which is not about the Exodus? But the morning of, Pesach morning, Yontif morning, the morning after the Seders, when many of us would prefer to be in bed, and we're tired, and we drank 4 cups of wine. But if we came to shul that morning, we would be reading a special Torah portion. So if yesterday morning had been this morning, we would absolutely be reading that portion. And that portion, so what happens in the calendar, so that those of you are giving me quizzical looks, the Torah portion gets postponed. It gets moved by a week. And we pick up the following week. So we have a bit of a conundrum today. Had we been here yesterday morning, we would have read, had yesterday morning fallen on today. Yesterday morning we had services. It was, anybody know what it was yesterday morning? Steve? It was confirmation. Many of you were confirmed. How many of you know that you were confirmed on Shavuot? Oh, well, this group is already self-selected, right? But many people will speak not only lovingly of their confirmations, but really it was an important moment in their lives. But it was confirmation. It wasn't Shavuot. Historically, the Reform movement put confirmation on Shavuot to reenact what happens on Shavuot, which is the giving of the law, the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. We think of it as a reenactment. The class walks up, it walks up to the altar, it brings offerings. When I was growing up, we used to bring flowers and canned goods and things like that. I'm not sure we do this anymore. But the class would bring offerings, and they would come to the ark together, as the people of Israel did at Mount Sinai in antiquity. So yesterday morning's Torah portion would have been Exodus chapters 19 and 20. Chapter 20 of Exodus, you may remember, 19 was the preparation for the giving of the Torah, and in 20 we have the giving of the Ten Commandments, Aseret HaDibrot. This morning we have a different portion, and I thought we should just take a peek at it. Before we do, I would just explain that because we aren't going to use the second day of Shavuot as our Torah portion, because we don't observe the second day of Shavuot, we are doing Naso. However, we're going to do Naso 2 weeks in a row. That's the ultimate solution. Some congregations, if we were preparing in advance, sometimes we have a double portion. Whenever a bar mitzvah student would walk into my office and sit down, and I'd look in the calendar and I'd look up, I said, "You've got a double portion." They would go, they would die, It's okay, doesn't mean you have to do twice as much. But when it's not a leap year and we have several double portions, some congregations will split a double portion in advance of Shavuot, if the Shavuot second morning is falling on Shabbat. But that throws them off of the calendar for a few weeks. For example, just a few weeks ago, we read Acharei Mot Kedoshim. That was a double portion. Or we could have read Bahar B'chukotai, I think it comes. So Bahar B'chukotai, it was just a couple weeks, it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, we could have split those into two, and that would have brought us actually to last week's portion this week, and then Naso next week. Have I lost you all? Anyway, yes and no. Okay, let's look in our Chumashim. The calendar, it's not only that it's complicated, I think it's wonderful, actually. I have a special affection for the Jewish calendar, which is a luna solar, it's one word, luna solar calendar. It is those of you, well, David is a mathematician, but those of you who are mathematically inclined might find it interesting, because the rabbis, they sat down and they figured this stuff out for hundreds, so that our calendar, not only are our festivals in the right seasons, but things fall when they are supposed to fall. And this is all mathematically based both on the phases of the moon and the movement of the sun. So let's just take a peek. We're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 19. And we will get to Naso, I promise. Deuteronomy 15, towards the end of it, actually, it's verse 19. Is where the portion starts, and it's talking about bringing the firstborn produce, basically, of your herds, of your cattle, your herds, those kinds of things, and anything with a defect is not allowed to be brought as a sacrifice. But what I really want you to look at is chapter 16, because it goes through chapter 16. And it starts by talking about observe the month of Aviv, offer a Passover sacrifice, and there's a whole section that talks about the Passover sacrifice. Verse 3, you shall not eat anything leavened with it. For 7 days thereafter you shall eat unleavened bread, bread of distress, for you departed from the land of Egypt hurriedly, etc. And it goes on with the Passover sacrifice until you come to verse 9. In verse 9 it says, you shall count off 7 weeks. Start to count the 7 weeks when the sickle is first put to the standing grain. Then you shall observe the Feast of Weeks for the Lord your God, offering your free will contribution according as the Lord your God has blessed you. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God with your son and daughter, your male and female slave, etc., the widow in your midst, and bear in mind that you were slaves in Egypt, and take care to obey these laws. Then 13, after the ingathering from your threshing floor and your vat, you shall hold the Feast of Booths for 7 days. And it goes on, a bit to describe that. Now, I want to point out one other thing. In Leviticus chapter 23, you don't have to turn, I'm just going to read it to you. In Leviticus chapter 23, verses 42 and 43, it said, this will go away. You shall live in booths 7 days. All citizens in Israel shall live in booths, in order that future generations may know that I made the Israelite people live in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. So we've already read that in the book of Leviticus. Question: what is the Feast of Weeks? Shavuot. According to the text, why do we observe it? It's a harvest. Yes, Arthur, exactly. It's a harvest. Any other reason? It's 50 days. It's the Feast of Weeks. Why do we observe, according to the text that we just read, why do we observe Pesach, Passover? According to what it just told us. Candy?
It celebrates freedom from Egypt.
It celebrates freedom from Egypt. I brought you out of the land of Egypt, exactly, and explains why you eat unleavened bread. Why do we celebrate the Feast of Booths? It is Sukkot, that's what we call it, but it doesn't call it that here. Yeah. To remind us that we were wandering in the desert, because it did give it away a few in Leviticus, chapters earlier. But the only reason we're celebrating the Feast of Weeks is because it's a harvest. And that is because there is no mention in the Torah of the Feast of Weeks being associated with the giving of the Torah. Yeah, right, Paul? It's not a biblical, it's a biblical holiday because there were 3 harvest festivals in ancient times. The other 2, at this point, had historical events associated with them. Only the Feast of Weeks. Weeks is a Shavuot, so I don't know if they call it Shavuot in the text, I don't remember. Yeah, Shivat Yamim. The Shavuot, only Shavuot has no historical overlay to the harvest. That was rabbinic. It happens in the Talmud. The rabbis made that association. So because there was no, especially once we became a more urban community, there was no reason to celebrate it. Yeah, Steve.
According to the narrative, how long did it take from the time we crossed the Red Sea till the time we were given the law on Sinai?
7 weeks, basically. I mean, that's what they superimposed on it.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's absolutely, I'd have to look, I just have to double check myself.
Maybe the rabbis were saying it's blindingly obvious why we have to Shavuot, because that's how long it took us to go from the Red Sea to Sinai.
Yeah, but it wasn't assigned
It wasn't explicit.
in the Torah. Right. Arthur.
I've always felt like Shavuot is the silent holiday, also because there's a whole bunch of things to do for the other 2 pilgrimage holidays. And you have a Seder, and you do all this stuff for Passover. There's a ton of storyline associated with it. Sukkot, not so much of a story, but you build a sukkah, and you live in it for 7 days. And you have a lulav and all this stuff.
Excellent.
And Shavuot's empty.
There's very little ritual.
It's so striking how empty it is. It's only one day. I mean, the other 2 are 7-day celebrations. And this is only one day. 2 in the diaspora. David.
And I just looked, and it says on the 3rd new moon after the Israelites had gone forth from the land of Egypt, they entered the wilderness of Sinai. So
It's not really 7 weeks.
it's not 7 weeks.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for the man who can count. So it's just, I offer that to you because I think it's an interesting insight into the nature of the festival. And Arthur's point, I believe, is very well taken. We once had, when we were at Fairmount Temple, one year in May, one of the teachers, who was Orthodox actually, stopped me and said, why don't our students know anything about Shavuot? And I said, because it happens after religious school is out. It's never been, it's not part, how many of you, and I'm not putting on, I don't care who's raising their hand. How many of you Thursday night thought, it's Shavuot, I should go to temple? We've got a handful. Oh, good. Did you go to temple?
Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, wonderful. I was not there, obviously. How many of you only ate dairy? Oh, how many of you only ate dairy from Thursday night to Friday evening? Sort of. Okay.
I still don't know what that has to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, Candy still doesn't know what that has to do with Shavuot. There are many reasons. There's no specific. One of them is because we were like, it's like Torah is like milk to a baby. It nurtures us. That's one of the reasons. It nurtures us. It helps us to grow. Another reason is we ate meat before the Torah was given. However, once the Torah was given, we had the laws of kashrut. But we didn't have enough time to organize ourselves to slaughter the meat properly and to arrange our kitchens properly before, because it happened on Shavuot, so we stuck to milchiks. The reason that I learned as a child, and I've never found it notated anywhere, but I love it, is that at the moment the Torah was given at Mount Sinai, the whole universe stood still. Even the animal kingdom. They stopped, the cows stopped their lowing, is that the right word? The lions did not roar. No, everybody stood at attention. And in honor of the animals who actually understood that something profound was happening, we don't eat meat. I like that one. All right, anyway, I'll just share with you that several years ago I wrote a bulletin article that suggested we remove Shavuot from the Jewish calendar. I'm serious. The Jewish calendar, we've got a very enthusiastic child out there. She's the only one who agreed. We have, the Jewish calendar is a fluid, living document. We have added things to it. We have lost things from it. There was once a festival of drawing water around the time of Sukkot that there's only a couple of references to it. We don't really know much about it. Paul?
I remember that because you were challenging the entire congregation to just not bother with Shavuot.
Right.
No one came.
Yeah.
And you said, and in your sermon, I happened to be there, oddly, and you said, if you don't observe this, it's just another Shabbat.
And the other thing was, I think one of the reasons it is empty, Arthur, is because we read Torah every Shabbat. It's not like we're not engaging in Torah. And Simchat Torah is also a celebration of Torah. Vivian is shaking her head no.
Not read Torah here every Shabbat.
I'm right, but we could.
Pushing on a bruise here.
All right, well, I didn't mean to, forgive me. All right, anyway, yeah, David.
Why was it assigned a day for saying Yortzeit?
On all three festivals are Yartzeit. There are 4 times a year when you could come for Yartzeit. It's Yom Kippur, and then Pesach, 7th day, Sukkot, 8th day. I think it's Shmini Atzeret, actually, that we do Yizkor and Shavuot. So it's because 3 times a year the community gathered and came to the temple. Anyway, I wrote this article. Nobody responded. And I brought it up at a ritual festivals committee, and one person said, "You can't do that." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Because you cannot." I said, "Do you come to services on Shavuot?" She said, "No, but you still can't do it." So I give it to you to consider. All right, let's turn. Yeah.
Is there a full moon on the Fall Festival, or is it on the 15th day of the month? When do those festivals?
Yeah, excellent question. Again, it's calendar related. Pesach falls on the night of the 14th, 15th of the month. Sukkot also falls on the 14th, 15th a day of the month, which is the full moon, and it is my, not currently quite so much, but it used to be my most favorite moon of the entire year, because the full moon of Sukkot, the harvest moon, meant that all the high holy days were over. And we'd made it. You know, we were still standing on 2 feet and alive. And it happens to be, in Cleveland sometimes, there are these gorgeous orange full moons, and they live very low in the sky for a certain period of time. Anyway, so it is the 14th, 15th, but Shavuot, I think, is the 6th, 7th of Sivan, because it's 7 weeks after Pesach. Yeah. All right. Naso is, so thank you for your excursion into what it would be like to be celebrating Shavuot, which doesn't really exist. So scratch that. That's just our secret. But it does lead us very nicely into our portion, which Naso is the longest portion of the Torah. So if we split it in half or do it for 2 weeks, that's not such a bad thing, right? And it generally comes right after Shavuot, when we have just celebrated the giving of the Torah. And we are, which makes us start to think about how we're going to live this Torah that was just given to us. We started in Numbers last week, the beginning, and Naso is chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. We established in earlier portions that the ark, with the Ark of the Covenant, as they call it, the ark with the tablets of the law, and the Mishkan, the kind of traveling tabernacle in which the ark is housed, is physically in the center of the camp, or it's about to be physically placed in the center of the camp, and it is visible to all Israelites when they go marching through the wilderness. So from the beginning of that Mishkan, from the beginning of the tabernacle, every Israelite could position themselves. Every Israelite knew where they belonged in relationship to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle, think of it as kind of a traveling sanctuary in which the ark was housed. That's quite a statement. That means that our holiest document, our laws, are right there where we can see them every single day. When we wake up in the morning, we orient ourselves. When we go to sleep at night, we know that our part of the camp, our tribe, is on the southeast corner of the tabernacle, or on the northwest corner of the camp. In a few weeks, when we hit Balak, the portion Balak in Numbers, one of the most famous texts, Ma tovu halacha Yaakov, Ma tovu, halacha Yaakov. It begins so many of our services. We begin with that text. How beautiful are your tents, O Israel, your dwelling places, O Jacob, was uttered by a non-Jewish prophet who was paid to curse the people of Israel. And when he went to curse the people of Israel, only words of blessing came out. And they came out as he observed the Israelite nation encamped around its tabernacle, encamped within sight of its law. Now, part of the interpretation is that every family's tent in that situation was adjusted in such a way that everybody would have privacy, so that the entrance of one camp was diagonal against the entrance of another. But again, it was the configuration of this group of people around the law, around this most precious document. And Naso really begins the process, last week in Numbers, but continues the process of how do we live with this document? How do we live when the thunder and the lightning and the plagues and all the miracles and the huge excitement of the past many months dies down, and we now have to live day by day. And day by day living is somewhat more challenging than the grand moments of our lives. So we're going to find that we have the continuation of a couple of themes. We started Numbers, as its name implies, with a counting of the census, and our portion takes its name from the first words of its second verse. So that if we look at the Hebrew, at the very beginning of it, it's chapter 4, verse 21. The portion begins with verse 21. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, naso et rosh b'nei Gershon gamhem. So it's asking us to take a census of this, or the census that started in Numbers is now continuing. The word naso is basically the same word with which the book of Numbers, the idea of Numbers, began 4 chapters ago. The very first words of Bamidbar, verse 1 is Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe. Again, it's a little more complicated. Bamidbar Sinai bo Moed. Basically, God is still speaking to Moses, but once again, in the second verse, Se'u et Rosh Kol Adat B'nai Yisrael. Count, take a census of all the people of Israel. Did you speak about this last week? Se'u, the relationship of Se'u to counting. Se'u and Naso are basically the same word. It's the same root, right? But it doesn't mean to count, even though the translation says, take a census. In both instances, it says, take a census. The first time is the whole Israelite community. The second time is take a census of the Gershonites also. This is a subset of the tribe of Levi, because these are the people who are going to administer the tabernacle and all that goes on there. Se'u et Rosh does not mean count the head. Rosh Hashanah, right? Se'u et Rosh means lift up the head. So what is translated as take a census comes from the idiomatic term Se'u et Rosh, lift the heads. Why might that be? There's many words in Hebrew for counting. Leaf code, wrote a bunch of them down, so that, because I knew I wouldn't remember them. Yeah, leaf code, leaf spore, lachshov, limnot. You could have used 4 different terms for counting, but instead we use Se'u et Rosh, or Naso et Rosh. Yeah, Steve.
It sounds as if you have to see the person. So you come to the tent and they say, oh, we've got 5 folks here. No. The census taker has to go inside and actually see the people. So lifting up their heads would mean like actual physical presence, maybe touching them and saying, 1, 2, 3.
Nice, really nice. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Lifting up your head, it also means to be inspired.
Oh, lovely. It does. So it's lovely. It elevates a process that can be just very mundane into something more meaningful. Yeah. Viv, did you?
Yeah, when you lift up somebody's head, you see their face.
Yeah.
You can't just tap them on the
Yeah, you see the face of every human being. It prevents us from reducing individuals to just numbers. It not only says we are counting you, but you count. You matter. it reminds me, I have become, I hate the term, the 6 million. We have become so, it's a slogan almost. And it has become, it makes me cringe because it takes 6 million and more individuals, discrete human beings, and it's such a shorthand that it bothers me. There's no good solution for it. I mean, I understand its usage, but it just becomes a, I don't think we think about it after we use it so many times. Yeah, Paul.
Cantor, I have a question, and I don't mean to sidetrack anything, but this talks about the Gershonites, and I understand the Gershonites were part of the tribe of Levi. However, wasn't Gershon also the name of Moses' son?
Yes, but it's not here. This is not, I don't think these are his specific descendants.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
It seemed to be.
I always have to look up that ancestry, Paul. You're right. But my understanding, from what I know of the text, is that Moses' sons kind of disappeared in the mists of history. Because if that was his son, then those descendants would have more, they would even be competitive with the other Levites. So I think it's got to be a different ancestor. Yeah. Nice question. Yeah.
His sons were, their mother was Midianite,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're right, they disappeared, but the assumption is they went with the Midianites.
That could be, but
Particularly since their grandfather was a very relevant figure.
Yitro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very possible. Very possibly, although there is some indication that Yitro, well, he was at least emotionally attached to the Israelite people.
Right.
But they could have been, they could have been lost there. It was not unusual for an Israelite man to marry a foreign woman
Right.
and bring her into.
Well, the predecessor situation was Abraham and his first son.
Oh, for sure.
He couldn't be the guy.
Yeah, right. Let's not go there right now. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say, the people who are on streaming can't see or hear you.
I'm sorry. Thank you. We did try to talk loudly. But you're right. You're right, because when I have watched the streaming, I also have to remember the questions should be repeated. Yeah. Okay, I will try to do that now. David, yeah.
So getting back to your point about 6 million versus individuals, it's been 40 years, so I don't really remember clearly my visit to Yad Vashem.
Ah,
But it seems to me they have a room that you go to where they sort of highlight the names one by one. Isn't that right?
yes, absolutely. Which is thank you. It works against the, I'm not quite sure what the word is, the erasure of the individuals into a sum. We we say the names, we lift up their names. Thank you. All of Yad Vashem, even each tree, I think, as you approach, isn't there a name attached to? The whole thrust of the place is to acknowledge the human beings who made a difference. Yeah. It reminds me actually a little bit of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., where every name is listed. And that's what this is saying. We're not just counting numbers. Yeah.
I'm not sure where you got it, but my husband carries a coin with a picture of one of the people who died in the Holocaust. And
Wow.
that's where that whole thing came from.
Wow. I don't know offhand, although just this week. Oh, I know. Was anybody at the Brian Stevenson lecture on Monday night at Severance Hall? Do you remember? I was so struck. I was struck by every word the man said. Do you know who he is? Brian Stevenson is a civil rights lawyer, which does not hardly scratch the surface, but has been instrumental. He wrote the book Just Mercies and was instrumental, continues to be instrumental in taking convicts on Black Row, saving their lives, especially when they have been falsely accused, most of whom were falsely accused. And he is the inspiration and the driving force behind the museum in Montgomery, Alabama, the memorial, which is to those who were lynched, which is profoundly moving, and the sculpture garden, all of which redefine those terms. It's not a museum, it's an experience. It's hardly, it is definitely a memorial that touches your very soul. It's hardly a sculpture garden, it's another experience. He is just this extraordinary man. Anyway, and he spoke for like 50 minutes. I don't think he took a breath. And he talked very fast. Anyway, he lifted up in Germany, when he was talking about, wasn't political, but he talked about that we have to change the narrative. We have to change narratives when they are not true. We have to change we have to challenge untrue narratives. He said, every high school student, please correct me if I've got this wrong, every high school student in Germany who graduates has to pass a detailed exam on the nature of the Holocaust and what happened there. And his point being, he didn't say it, but his point being that we are shielding our children in this country from some of the very hard truths of our history. But he lifted up, that's all, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on this whole trip. But he was very moving. He spoke about how you cannot go 2 or 3 feet in Germany without seeing in the sidewalk, a plaque with someone's name on it, who lived there, who died there. I've seen them. Have any of you seen those plaques in the... Say it, Steve?
In German, stumbling stones.
Stumbling stones.
Brass.
They're brass, and they are embedded in the pavement. Yeah, so that they are...
Not just people who died, but people who emigrated as well. My father's name is on one in our hometown in Germany.
Wow, and not just people who died, people who emigrated as well. Steve's dad's name is on one of those in the town they
As well as my grandparents.
and his grandparents, etc. How moving. That is a way of uplifting the names out of the number. That is a Se'u Rosh. That is an uplifting of that's counting the person by their Rosh, by their humanity. Yeah.
The coin she's referring to, there was actually a ghetto currency that the Jews had their own currency in the ghetto. And the only reason I know this is a friend of mine has a collection of this, and he has each piece, each bill, each coin in a picture frame on the wall in his house. It was not German currency. It was only used in the ghetto.
There was a ghetto currency, and it actually put people's pictures on it?
Yeah.
Wow, I never heard of that.
I didn't know it till I was visiting my friend years ago. He showed me his collection on the wall in his house. It's actual ghetto currency. It was only used in the ghetto by the Jews that were there.
Actual ghetto currency that was only used by the Jews that were there. Wow. That's your answer, I think. But and there might be other reasons for it. Yeah. it's somewhat mysterious that there was a coin with the picture of a survivor or of someone who perished in the Holocaust. At any rate, it cautions us to be careful, to count the heads, not just count the bodies, and not just reduce an individual to a number. All right, so moving on. We are now moving into another interesting place. Okay. So we're going to move into 3 areas, actually, that seem to be totally unrelated. Forgive me for my... We're going to look now at the laws of the sotah, a woman suspected of adultery, and how she is judged. The rules for a nazir, we'll talk about what that means, and the blessings, a blessing uttered by the priest known as the priestly benediction. And each of them seems to have no relationship to the other, but I think in the end we could probably find one, and these are interesting. They've been discussed extensively for centuries because of their difficulties or their inherent interest. So let's look at first to the idea. The basic idea is maintaining community sanctity by countering threats of impurity. So we find that in Jewish life, or in the Torah specifically, there is this obsession. There's an obsession with purity and impurity. You've come across this, yes? Okay, so, and sometimes this obsession it can feel degrading. It can involve a kind of victim blaming. It can be overreacting. But let's just look at it for a minute, because impurity is not intrinsically bad at all. In fact, sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes things have to be impure. What is it that makes something impure? Something not sacred, basically, is what it's saying. In all these texts, we come across it over in Leviticus. Do you remember Leviticus? It's easy to forget. But it's a concern of almost every chapter. What is impure and what is pure, what is impure in Jewish life? What makes something impure? What's the obsession? What's the fear? What is the fear? What's going to happen to us? Why does it threaten God's presence somehow? Yeah.
Assimilate.
Say it again.
That you assimilate.
That we would assimilate. That if we left behind those categories, we would become like everybody else. Yes. We need to go further. Why? Yeah, Steve.
God, back in Genesis, created an ordered universe, and things that are impure tend to start to violate those categories.
Interesting. Very interesting. God created the universe in an orderly fashion with a certain structure in Genesis, and things that are impure tend to violate those structures and can mean an unraveling of it all. Arthur.
So I've been intrigued by the pure and impure for many years. I think there's a mystery to it in the sense that there's no story attached to pure and impure.
Say it again, there's no
story attached, like this, the holiday Pesach has a story that justifies.
Oh, there's no story that explains. Right.
Like, to me, the most common modern form of pure and impure is kosher and treif.
Kosher and treif would be the most modern form.
There's nothing immoral about treif. It's just
Uh-huh.
sort of arbitrary. And in fact, there's a category of, okay, there's a okay, there's a category of laws, some of which have reasons, of which don't, and the pure and impure ones are firmly in the category of no reason, so that their force seems to be because it's commanded. There's no story or moral force behind them. I've been mystified by them, actually. There's not much trace of pure and impure in our lives today, but kashrut seems to be a remnant.
Could be.
Yep.
Any other thoughts? Well, yeah.
I think it's things that threaten the community.
Things that threaten the community. I think this is true, but I want to be more specific. Jordan.
I always wondered why death and caring for a dead body makes one impure. It's part of life and somebody has to do that. So it might be the fear of death.
I think that Jordan is closest, actually. I'll tell you what my own theory is. And it shows you why when we talk about pure and impure, we're not talking about good and bad. And that is what is very difficult for our contemporary minds to absorb. These were categories, and impurity was necessary. It was absolutely necessary. I think that what makes something impure ultimately, wait a minute, let me back up. What is Judaism's highest value? Life. What makes anything impure is that in some way it touches death. If your highest value is life, the great enemy is death. And we try to do anything that might avoid it, but death is part of life. I mean, it's part of creation. God put it there. If we look at ancient Egypt, and we can understand many things in Jewish life as a reaction to that experience. We left Egypt, the most powerful, cultured, educated nation in the world of that time, and its focus was on death. To this day, the monuments to death remain. A pyramid is a monument to death. And many of the ancient cultures were obsessed with death. Even today, I mean, the most frustrating question that our congregants ever ask is, why did they die? Why did they die? Where are they? What happens? We have so many questions about death. Judaism doesn't answer one of them. We don't know. And it's not that we don't care, because our loved ones die. And we say Yizkor, we are commanded to remember them. But we don't have those answers. We're not focused on what happens after. So anything that touches death or suggests death or might have the appearance of something that is death-like is impure. And I think if you look at it from that point of view, I think we can find a reason for most anything that is considered impure. Yeah?
Then why is the tradition of Heber Kadisha considered such a blessing? If that person is considered pure,
Yeah.
once they do what they do.
It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that when they are finished, they have to go through a process of returning themselves to life. It's almost, we do a mini that when we wash our hands upon entering a home. It's a mini washing off. We go to the mikveh. We make a separation to show that we respect actually both realms. We respect both realms, and it is a mitzvah because it is something that person cannot do for themselves. And that's the ultimate mitzvah of bearing a human being, is that, if you do something good, if you do a mitzvah for someone, you might have the unworthy thought, well, if I do this for them, maybe someday I'll get something back in return. You can't have that thought with someone who has passed away. They can never repay. Yeah?
But also some of it is practical.
Meaning?
Meaning is particularly in ancient times, they don't know why the person died medically.
They don't know why the person died medically, yeah.
And it would be wise to stay away, to not catch whatever it is.
To not catch whatever it is. But they didn't know about contagion. There was a sense of staying away. You're absolutely right. Someone with supposed quote-unquote leprosy was removed from the camp for 7 days.
What I'm suggesting is some of the rules are that to offset the ignorance of the time.
To offset the ignorance of the time they made those rules.
Particularly kosher rules. Because remember, a lot of the bowls and things were wooden. And it would be impossible to totally clean the dishes. So if you mix milk and meat,
Then you would, if you mix milk and meat. So that they did that because of the ignorance of the time. I would suggest that we're still retrojecting. Retrojecting, did I get it right? We're still retrojecting what we know onto them.
but that's why the rules were given to keep you from harming yourself.
The rules were given to keep you from harming yourself. I would suggest to you that they developed the rules to be sure that they were the ultimate goal of those rules was to create a barrier between the Jewish community and others.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm just saying there are some practical sides to it.
It turns out there are. But I'm not sure they knew that in advance. And we can discuss that. Definitely, we lucked out. Yeah, no question. I mean, washing, for example, was something that we did because it was, it created a barrier between pure and impure. Turned out, it was very sound. So here's the first instance. Let's read this chapter. And by way of, I put some women's commentaries on the table. In case you are not familiar with that volume, it is a volume that is very special to my heart. It lifts up particularly issues in the text that touch women. Although it touches, it's a remarkable volume, and I wanted, this was a good opportunity to introduce it to you, and the yellow sheets and the pink sheets are copies from that volume. So we are going to be reading now in Naso, chapter 5, starting with verse 1. And we're now looking at what are the things that threaten a sacred community. What are the things that are impure? So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelites, when a man or woman commits any wrong toward a fellow man, thus breaking faith with the Lord, and that person realizes his guilt, he shall confess the wrong that he has done. He shall make restitution in the principal amount and add 1/5 to it, giving it to him whom he has wronged. If the man has no kinsman to whom restitution can be made, the amount repaid shall go to the Lord for the priest, in addition to the ram of expiation with which expiation is made on his behalf. So too any gift among the sacred donations that the Israelites offer shall be the priest's, and each shall retain his sacred donations. Each priest shall keep what is given to him." So that's kind of a general way of seeking forgiveness for things that you know you have done wrong. Interesting that there is a structure for it. It's really quite remarkable. Now, verse 11. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, If any man's wife has gone astray and broken faith with him, in that a man has had carnal relations with her, unbeknownst to her husband, and she keeps secret the fact that she has defiled herself without being forced, and there is no witness against her, but a fit of jealousy comes over him, and he is wrought up about the wife who has defiled herself. Or if a fit of jealousy comes over one, and he is wrought up about his wife, although she has not defiled herself, the man shall bring his wife to the priest, and he shall bring as an offering for her 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour. No oil shall be poured upon it, and no frankincense shall be laid on it, for it is a grain offering of jealousy, a grain offering of remembrance, which recalls wrongdoing. The priest shall bring her forward and have her stand before the Lord. The priest shall take sacred water in an earthen vessel, and taking some of the earth that is on the floor of the tabernacle, the priest shall put it into the water. After he has made the woman stand before the Lord, the priest shall bear the woman's head and place upon her hands the grain offering of remembrance, which is a grain offering of jealousy. And in the priest's hands shall be the water of bitterness that induces the spell. The priest shall adjure the woman, saying to her, if no man has lain with you, if you have not gone astray in defilement while married to your husband, be immune to harm from this water of bitterness that induces the spell. But if you have gone astray while married to your husband and have defiled yourself, if a man other than your husband has had carnal relations with you, here the priest shall administer the curse of adjuration to the woman, as the priest goes on to say to the woman, may the Lord make you a curse and an imprecation among your people, as the Lord causes your thigh to sag and your belly to distend. May this water that induces the spell enter your body, causing the belly to distend and the thigh to sag, and the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. The priest shall put these curses down in writing and rub it off into the water of bitterness. He is to make the woman drink the water of bitterness that induces the spell, so that the spell-inducing water may enter into her to bring on bitterness. Then the priest shall take from the woman's hand the grain offering of jealousy, elevate the grain offering before the Lord, and present it on the altar. The priest shall scoop out of the grain offering a token part of it and turn it into smoke on the altar. Last he shall make the woman drink the water. Once he has made her drink the water, if she has defiled herself by breaking faith with her husband, the spell-inducing water shall enter into her to bring on bitterness, so that her belly shall distend and her thighs shall sag, and the woman shall become a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is pure, she shall be unharmed and able to retain seed. Just 3 more. This is the ritual in cases of jealousy, when a woman goes astray while married to her husband and defiles herself, or when a fit of jealousy comes over a man and he is wrought up over his wife. The woman shall be made to stand before the Lord, and the priest shall carry out all this ritual with her. The man shall be clear of guilt, but that woman shall suffer for her guilt. Anybody ever read that before? No, did you know that was in the Torah?
No burden of proof.
What, Paul?
Where's the burden of proof?
Where's the burden of proof? Okay, yeah.
To me, this feels a little bit like the witch trials, where like if you go in the water and you float, you're a witch, but if you drown, you're not. Like there's no winning. And I don't know what was in this water they're making them drink, but if you refuse, you're not winning. But if you drink it and then you become a turtle, you're also not winning.
Excellent. It's a trial by ordeal. It's like a trial by ordeal. It is. It has been the source of pain, anger, confusion, shame. It has elicited a tremendous amount of commentary, as you may imagine, and interpretation throughout the centuries to our own day, i.e., the women's commentary made up.
So what do the men
What happens to them?
Yes, what is there exactly?
Remember, this is an ancient text. Some find this to be unforgivably misogynistic, demeaning of women, and humiliating, demonstrating the vulnerability of women and the privileged position of men. Some find this ritual can be used to protect accused women. And as we said, it's a kind of trial by ordeal used when there are no witnesses or there are conflicting witnesses, but there are accusations and there is no objective evidence. It is unique in the Torah. And by the way, Lou, I'll get you a minute. There is a similar trial by ordeal involving a river to determine the woman's fate in the laws of Hammurabi, similar to the Salem Trust, where a woman is, she's kind of thrown into a river. And if she drowns and dies, she's guilty. And if she doesn't, she's innocent. I mean, you know, couldn't be worse. Yeah, Jordan.
I always felt that this was an abortion, and it was not just infidelity, but if the woman was carrying a baby and they knew the cause of it, that's why the belly would swell and her thighs sag. And if she wasn't carrying the baby, the abortion would not have affected her, and she would be found not guilty. So it wouldn't prove infidelity, it would just prove a conception. Yes, and no. It's a confusing text. Part of the issue is that the Hebrew is confusing. And so there's nothing entirely clear here. Lou, I didn't mean to.
So I'm thinking about the researches because, you know, I've done, in the old times I did a good amount of expedition type stuff. And what's the consequences of drinking dirty water? And I don't believe the distended bellies are one of the more popular results of drinking dirty water.
Okay, so you all have wonderful points.
I mean, there are other things, but it's not
Right.
not distended bellies.
And you've pointed out a lot of the issues here. What I'd like to share with you.
Could it be that you know, it's a sort of like, you know, it's an encouragement to, you know, for couples to make nice and get back together again?
There's a lot of things that it can do. And at one level, as the Eitz Chaim commentary points out, it reflects the immense seriousness with which the Torah regards marital infidelity. In the Talmud, it says, all other transgressions recorded in the Torah can, if committed, be put right. If a person steals, they can return what they stole. If one withholds wages from a laborer, they can pay this back. They don't include if one commits murder. You can't reverse that either, but okay, let's put that aside for a moment. But the one who cohabits with a married woman is unable to restore her marriage to what it was previously. It is like murder, and therefore is one of the big three of the 10 Commandments that can never be broken. In other words, there are exceptions to the other 7, but there are 3 of the 10 you must never, ever, ever break. Anybody want to take a guess what those 3 are? Murder. Adultery, yeah. What? Idolatry. Exactly. It's a kind of murder. They're all a kind of murder. Yeah. Those are the big three. So the rabbis call this term is not used in the Torah, sotah. This is called the case of the sotah, taken from the Hebrew word tisteh, which means somebody who strays, someone who is literally deviant. And there are lots of associations. Rashi connects the Hebrew sotah with shoteh, which is a fool, and he reflects the Talmudic principle that no one sins unless overcome with foolishness. That if we could think ahead to the consequences of our actions, none of us would sin. That would be nice to think about. And there was a question as to whether this was ever actually invoked. It only worked in an age when people believed in the power to expose the guilty and exonerate the innocent. And in a more cynical time, during the Second Temple, actually, and its aftermath, the ritual was discontinued. Our sages seem to have understood the ordeal of the sotah less as a way of weeding out adulteresses and more of a way of proving to the husband that his suspicions were groundless. Tikva Freimer-Kensky, Alav Sholem, was a great feminist scholar of Bible, and she's one of the editors of the Women's Commentary. But I would like to share with you, she wrote a very famous article, an analysis of the sotah, which views the ritual not as a barbaric test of adultery, but as a brilliant legal and psychological mechanism designed to save women from mob violence, expose false male suspicion, and resolve marital deadlock. And these are the points that she makes in her much more complete article. The primary problem is suspicion, not adultery, is her point. The ritual is initiated by a husband's kina, his insane jealousy, or his obsession. It is a procedure invoked when there is no objective evidence and the community is deadlocked in doubt. Divine truth is a shield. By bringing the woman to the priest, the husband is legally barred from taking vigilante justice into his own hands. The ritual effectively forces him to transfer his uncontrolled rage to the divine sphere, relying on God to render the ultimate verdict. You can't argue with God. Reinterpretation of the curse. The Bible describes the physical penalty for the guilty woman as a collapsing abdomen and a wasting thigh. Freimer-Kensky interpreted this specific physiological reaction as a prolapsed uterus. In this condition, the pelvis floor collapses, rendering the woman permanently barren and unable to bear children. The ritual as anti-magic. In surrounding ancient Near Eastern cultures, trials by ordeal utilized actual magic and poisonous potions to extract confessions. Freimer-Kensky noted that the Israelite ritual explicitly strips the waters of inherent magical power. Lou, I think that's what you were pointing to. I'm sorry. The water itself is harmless. It's dirt. It doesn't taste very good. You wouldn't want to drink it. But it's dirt and the ink of a written curse mixed in some water, emphasizing that only God's direct intervention can cause the physical collapse. Freimer-Kensky argued that the sotah ceremony functions as a psychological ordeal. If the woman is guilty, her inner knowledge of her guilt or her fear of God triggers the physical collapse. If she is innocent, nothing happens, and she is declared officially pure. This clears her name permanently and forces the husband to accept her innocence and remain married to her. Of course, we don't necessarily know what will it take to restore her trust in him and affection for him, but that's not of grave concern. Arthur, yeah.
So if you look at the first verse of the story, I think it's the last half of the first part, it says, if any wife, the very first action that's prepared is, if any wife has gone astray and broken faith with her husband, that's the topic sentence.
If a wife has gone astray,
That's the topic sentence.
yeah.
There's a parentheses later on saying, also, if a husband's suspicious of his wife.
Oh, and then also, but it is included.
It's included, but it's not the main
Yeah.
title of the passage.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to what Sonia said and ask whether there's room for us to say there's certain passages in the Torah that don't meet basic moral standards, that fail moral standards.
Are there certain passages in the Torah that don't meet basic moral standards?
One way to approach reading these texts is
Yeah.
they can't fail a high standard. They're the ultimate standard.
They can't.
So you have to find some way to turn what looks like a bad idea into a good idea.
Oh,
And I'm wondering whether this is an instance where this is really a bad idea.
it's really a bad idea.
You know,
Yeah.
in modern criminal, you can't go arraign anyone on suspicion. You have to have probable cause. There's a threshold. In this, any guy at any moment can haul his wife up. The woman has no ability to resist a man saying, I'm putting you on public
Trial.
shaming trial.
Yeah.
Whether cleared or not, it's an embarrassing thing to go through, I would imagine.
Oh, humiliating.
So
Humiliating.
I think morally it comes up short.
Oh, I think there's no question. But believe me, I'm not an apologist for the mistreatment of women in the Torah. However, remember that a woman was considered property. And this is so you can't, again, we can't apply our standards to theirs. They had a different moral universe in which they functioned, and we can't change that. But I think you're absolutely right. We can look at it and we can reinterpret the text. That is what makes it so rich. We can reinterpret it and discover our own failings in the midst of it. How often are women go into any women's, any ladies' restroom, and there are signs, call this hotlines for abuse. Because women are endangered far more in their homes, far more than men. But this, I think Freimer Kensky has a point, because if you look at the nature of the ordeal, but she had to drink. As I say, it didn't taste very good, but there wasn't anything really terrible with it. The Israelites took that all out. They could have used what the surrounding nations used, but they didn't. That this is a way of solving which must have been a real problem, or it wouldn't be here. Men who got jealous, men who were suspicious, men who saw their wives maybe flirting with someone. And hold your question, one more thing. There are some commentators who see, Jordan, what you were saying, that the real issue here is if you think that the woman is pregnant, it all makes more sense, because then the issue is paternity. Is the husband, if he suspects he is not the father of the child, it creates all kinds of, that's where we interfere. Who said about creation? That's where we interfere with the order, the structure of things, because then you're talking about inheritance, and you're talking about, generational stuff. So it may be that there is a pregnancy involved. Yeah, and then
It seems like her interpretation is a very Ashkenazic point of view, in the sense that suspicion seems to be prevalent in Ashkenazic things. Like, for example, Passover is like, Ashkenaz don't eat beans because they may think it looks like flour or whatever, whatever the explanation is, or, rice, they don't eat rice.
I would submit to you that there is superstition in all areas of Jewish life. Yeah, they just have more exotic ones. No.
So it's a Jewish kind of point of view. I mean, it's not the.
I think that men can be suspicious of their wives is age-old, and it goes both ways. And women can be suspicious of their husbands, God knows. Yes?
I'm thinking about this concept of humiliation.
Ah.
And how, woman is humiliated. And I think that in addition to the woman being humiliated, I think there's a reluctance, there should be a reluctance of a man to come out and say, my wife was with somebody else. I mean, I can't keep her. She's my property, but I couldn't hold her back. That's not something I think most men would be interested in doing.
I agree with you. I think that David.
I was struck with Arthur's comment, which seemed to suggest that these were less enlightened times in which this was written. I don't agree, because I think the issue of how a man treats his wife hasn't changed that much over the millennia. And in many societies to this day, a man has the right to do terrible things, like maybe even kill his wife or have his wife killed over his suspicion. And so this is a proposal to try to solve the problem. I mean, I'd like to think, okay, in this day and age, we don't need this kind of rule anymore. We're not in that age yet.
Thank you. And I think the psychological overtones of it all, and those who are looking at this as a way of alleviating suspicion, as a way of breaking that obsession, as a way of possibly bringing a man and woman back together. Excuse me. Today. I mean, we read these awful stories about I can't say anything doesn't happen here in this country, but there are some cultures especially where even suspicion can result in death. And it's...
honor killings.
Say it, I'm sorry?
The honor killings. The Middle East, they're called the honor killings.
Oh, the honor killings. Yeah, the honor killings. Yeah, right, exactly, Steve.
From the point that you're making, what the Bible is describing is a man in a fit of jealousy. And what it's doing is it's creating a whole bunch of procedures. The man cannot simply act out on his very high emotional state. He has to go to the priest. He has to bring an offering for his jealousy. And then there's this whole process before that, like, hopefully cooler heads will prevail, and whatever that jealousy, giving some time before the ordeal.
Excellent.
So he has a template. If you're really jealous, you have a template for what to do. It doesn't diminish the misogyny that comes later, but it provides some kind of step-by-step model that he must follow, and at any point he has an exit to say.
Excellent. I know we're coming to the end of our time. You're touching on, now I just lost my thought. Bringing Vivian's point. Interestingly also, the man, even if his wife is proved innocent, he suffers no punishment, no consequences. Some of the commentators see that as a positive, that this would allow him to go through this process that you just described, where his jealousy might subside, where he doesn't act out of rage, because there are no consequences for him if, in fact, in the end, his suspicion is not valid. I know we have to stop. I would just point out that the yellow sheet gives you some more interpretations, one in particular at the bottom where it says post-biblical interpretations. Yeah, it's time to stop. If any wife has gone astray, and it shows how the rabbis of the Talmud complicated the process that is only barely described in the Torah in such a way that it made it almost impossible to subject a woman to it. So, for example, the rabbis later developed numbers into an entire tractate in the Talmud called Sotah, the Errant Wife. It describes in detail the ordeal that she will endure, filling in much that the Torah does not mention, but also encasing this ritual in a set of rules that transform it into an unusual and infrequent event. According to Mishnah Sotah 1, only if a husband warns his wife in advance not to seclude herself with a particular man, and only if there are witnesses to the warning and to the act of seduction, only then may he force her to go with him to the temple. So they made it so because they recognized the humiliating nature of the entire thing, and so they worked against it. Bob.
All the spotlight is on the woman. Certainly some on the man, but I can't imagine what if there are children in the family, what they are subjected to in terms of their loyalties, either to the mother or to the father, and that is something that's going to have repercussions much into the generations.
It's a beautiful observation. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it doesn't even enter. I mean, the assumption may be this is a first pregnancy, but yeah, you're right. And not only their children. I mean, these are small communities. What about the wife's sister who's married to someone? I mean, it's horrific. I would point you to one of the very special parts of the women's commentary is that at the end of every portion, there is a section called Voices. And these are primarily poetic responses to the text. Poetic responses in some way. In other words, sometimes the poems were not written in response to the portion, but they were offered as possible interpretations after the fact. In other words, the editors of the commentary invited, there are 200 women poets represented in this section of the commentary. Every single portion has these 3 or 4 pages at the end. It's the 5th part of every portion, and I think you might find some meaningful commentary. These are commentary. These poems are commentary upon an interpretation of the text. We didn't get to some of the stuff. You've got next week. But I would leave you with this thought. You will probably discuss in more detail one of the very special features of this Torah portion is that the priestly benediction is included in it, which is probably one of the passages that is best known, not just by Jews, but by all people. It's, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord is more traditional language. May the Lord cause his countenance to shine upon you. May the Lord lift up God's face to you and grant you peace. It ends with peace. You've heard it a million times at weddings, at births, it's part of the daily shacharit and marib, I think, or mincha service. It is part of it is the blessing that Jewish parents offer their children at Shabbat dinner. But one of the points that actually a colleague of mine made, is that it points out, if you look carefully at the text, that it's not the priests who are blessing the people. it's may God bless you and keep you. God is mentioned 3 times, every one of the sentences. The priests are a conduit of blessing to the people. And the lesson that we learn is that every human being, priests, rabbis, teachers, parents, every individual can be a conduit for blessing, can be a vessel of God's blessing. And that is our goal. That is how we make the world pure. That is how we avoid impurity. That is how we elevate all of our lives to a sacred status. So I pray that each of us will be a conduit for blessing in some way this week. And I thank you for this opportunity to learn together. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach. Yeah.
Am I wrong in noticing that only the men are talked about in terms of rage, the women are not?
There's a lot of in balance.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That seems to be the case.
I think so. And yeah, I think you're right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jordan.
But when you were practicing, were you allowed to give the blessings?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to point that out.
But
Whomever does it.
They didn't leave it only up to the rabbis?
No,
Because
no.
exactly what you said.
Yeah, no, not here. I mean, not here,
Reform.
not in Reform. Yeah, no, thank you. And in fact, the conservative movement, there is a tradition of Kohanim, you know, if your last name is Kohen, of blessing the people on the festivals especially. And there is the conservative legal committee. I think there was a split decision that women, daughters of priests, may also offer it. So some conservative,
They've got to avoid the funerals also?
I had an instructor at Cantorial school, a teacher, who was a Kohen, and he did not go to funerals.
Right, no,
as a cantor. He was a cantor. He was a chazan.
But so I wondered whether their daughters were prohibited also.
They would, if they accept it, then they wouldn't.
Then they would be
Yeah.
prohibited.
daughters
It depends where you're talking. I mean, the Reform for sure. I mean, there's no distinction.
Right.
In some conservative.
They
Yeah,
just started doing that.
Well, I celebrated becoming a bat mitzvah in a liberal conservative synagogue in Chicago. Yeah.
In
1960 something.
well, okay, because in 1967, I started a Reform congregation because conservatives weren't treating women.
Oh, when I came here in 1980, many of our girls at Fairmont Temple were still not becoming bat mitzvah.
Should we leave this on the table, or is there...
Yeah, leave it on the table would be great. Thank you for asking. It's a wonderful book. Yeah, thank you.
Sarah, thank you. This is really wonderful.
Oh, David, thank you.
You know, I couldn't help, though, with the holiday of Sukkot and reading the book of Ruth again. I couldn't help but say, you know, here's, and I'm not trying to make an antidote for what we just finished, but here you have Ruth, and then at the end of Ruth, the author brings in Tamar, who, you know, just what you're talking about, and these two women, you know, are the high moral ground of the men.
In fact, David, Ruth is the ancestress
of
of David
yeah.
and ultimately supposedly of the Messiah.
Yeah, so it just kind of...
Every now and then,
so,
it peeks through, you know?
You're right.
Yeah.
But thank you again.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to see you. And Susie is...
Yeah, you know, what's happened, we are so fortunate, both Daniel and Judith and their kids and now grandkids, they live in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, that's right.
And so we now we got an apartment there, and we spend some time there. So for like the last couple, 3 months,
So you're still flying transatlantic.
You're right, and
Oh my
but
God.
we're fortunate, and we wanted. I mean, these are golden years, and we just have a new little 15-week-old grandson.
Mazel tov.
Yes, so.
Mazel tov. Oh, well, give Susie a kiss for me.
I will.
Mwah. So good to see you. Yeah.
I don't know if it's Jermaine or not, but Isaac and Jacob and Joseph were all mama's boys.
We could do a whole psychological study on that, Lou.
Right.
Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph.
They were all, guided by their mothers, that's how they became, the second born became.
I think you should write it up, Lou.
I just came to say thanks.
Oh, thank you, Arthur. Thank you. It's always fun to hear your thoughts. Yeah. Oh, was it? I don't know how to judge it, so thank you for saying that. I just, thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah, we were all celebrating your own participation this week.
Thank you. It's a little, I should have said, it's a bit forward, but.
You're in I didn't make that up, right?
No, not at all. Read the forward preface. It's a problem. If it's one of those naughty problems, it's kind of fun to.
No one's saying, hey, let's do
He's
that.
incorrigible. But you have to look at these things. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I know.
The instructions are first.
A day is Zoom bus.
Well, hey.
Oh, I didn't realize that. He's telling me.
In Buffalo?
Yeah, no.
So you can grow there?
No,
You might get.
Get some fun on that.
That's your kind of.
Okay, thank you.
Well, my cousin takes kids in Chicago, he takes the bus. There's one that makes one stop, it's there in 6 hours, that's just one stop.
Oh, good, okay, thank you.
No,
Get off the bus.
kids better have a bus.
She did that once.
Would you rather have a long table or the round table?
Yeah, me too.
Well, we're used to, I have to, can't give you a yes or no, this is political, but the long tables we're used to. But I think it's who's here.
Thank you. Oh, and thank you for all your comments.
So, that's just because you left. When we first met, many years ago, my aunt and uncle were members of the Dubers. And I used to go to help, there was an annual presentation. And my aunt's member, she died very young. And they had all moved out of town. Right. Francis, that was my aunt. Yeah, that was my mother's younger sister. And she unfortunately died very young. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is I was there because no other family was in town to go. Now recently, with the merger and everything, Mark, their youngest son, who's the only one left, contacted me what happened to the plaques. So, no, they're not here. So, through a chain of calls, I found out they're in the mausoleum at Longfield Road. Anybody that couldn't find them wanted them kept. Okay, and then, so I called Mark and told him. And then I arranged with whoever monitors that. The lady happened to be going to DC for my husband's birthday, and she took her plaque to him. So, yeah.
We had the option, there was a letter, we had the option of moving it. And my father-in-law was at Fairmount because that's where we belong.
Right.
And we brought it up there.
Well, he happened to call me randomly. He didn't get a letter, they didn't even know where to send it, because he's the only family. His sister died young. In fact, my aunt died a week before Mark was to be bar mitzvah. And I went to Rabbi Leleville, I believe, and said, what do we do? Rabbi Leleville gave me answer to stuff. He said, take this for the living. And we went ahead with the bar mitzvah the week after he married his mother. It was pretty rough. Thank you. Yeah, we got and we usually, right, Carol, we usually, here's the subject. And we go here.
Okay, or there's one, well, let's see, we just spent 40 minutes on half a sentence.
Yeah, we seldom get through the parsha. Have we ever?
Oh, yeah, right. Well, this was a good one not to get through. Because you bought the bagels.
I picked up the bagels.
How many people do you usually expect at the
At least 50 people. No? Well, we've got 5 tables, at least 8 people each table.
Well, there were, not all the tables were full. That one was full. Full. There were a couple of.
Not because I don't like it.
Between 35 and 40. Okay.
Yeah.
So just one.
That one is here.
Because I would have made that a copy.
But I don't, I just want to buy it.
Well, we could share.
Try not to buy it.
Why not?
Well, like the before COVID.
I buy it for mine.
Usually 80 people.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I don't have some.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
And we don't even know how many are.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Maybe, I know, it's, and that's the,
Where do they come from?
that's the stuff that I write.
So, then,
People are very particular.
Remember that year we did when you weren't there and you had to go to Brugger's? There was a rebellion.
Yeah, well, we always, they're always,
It's sad, it's sad when you have
so,
to speak.
Cindy Wilson called me, she goes, what do you think we should do? Bagels? can't have hamburgers without bagels. So, okay, well, we'll order them from Brugger's then, so, okay, and, but.
I know, and I don't feel good after I eat them. It's chocolate in this part.
And Rabbi Klein, we should start
So
the
I
session
don't
here.
know.
Anybody have anything to share or to say, is there an event coming up? Or whatever? And I said, yes, I would like to say that the bagels are from Brugger's. That's because the oven always is broken, and the decision was bagels or no bagels.
You were lucky to get out of here alive that day.
Well, then, yes, but I wanted you to know that I was going through my father's things when he was in New York.
Your daughter
I didn't have much of a relationship with my father, but I found that in his box,
Oh, they belong to the town.
is the
Okay.
and
I was
that's
thinking about this, what we were talking about today.
anything else.
The woman could be innocent. You're never gonna change this small husband.
Yeah, but I delivered.
So, what I get out of it is I'm really glad I don't live in that house.
And
Because he's crazy, even before his son told me her crazy.
Thank you, this was wonderful.
That's it.
There
Oh my
wasn't
God.
a soul in the lobby. She made this whole big mess. And then he came running and screamed for somebody.
Right.
Finally, somebody
What a
came.
story. We're, I mean, that's one that's much worse to live than it is.
So when
to
she
live
was
itself.
little, she said, I was born in the lobby.
That's cute.
Now I call her the lobby girl.
Well, in today's society.
She'll always be my lobby
Was she the
girl.
first?
Third.
I mean, look at the
That's
cases
why she
where,
was born
Yeah.
in the lobby.
you
My
know, it's
granddaughter.
60%,
Right.
but look at the cases where.
Very sad.
More than the tax account.
Doesn't matter if he's proven
Better
innocent
than
or
messing
not,
up
his
the
life's
power.
ruined.
Well, my daughter said if a woman cries rape, you have to look into it,
Oh, yeah.
I know a few young girls who have been gay raped.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's very common.
I know.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it ruins a person's
Right.
life.
Because they don't, I know, and you don't ever have any knowledge of it before it happens. Nobody, you don't have
Well,
any.
if you did, you would
You
not be
wouldn't-
there.
Right.
I mean,
But
it's
it's not always violent and
Right.
horrendous like that. There's all different ways that it manifests itself. And there's not any education about it.
Well, the
at
young
all.
women who I've spoken to were raped, and they are ruined. They are ruined. They're afraid to have relationships. They have relationships, and all of a sudden
Hi, can I call you back in 5
actual
minutes?
situation pops up, and they can't perform. I mean,
Have a good week, kids.
Bye-bye.
You
Okay.
do.
And it's devastating. It's devastating. And it follows them through their life. I know young girls now, one is 24. She was raped, she was also a date rape. There were a few of them were date rapes. And it ruins them. They have a hard time having relationships. But anyhow,
All right.
okay, I'm going to my daughter's house. I'm going to try on a dress for my daughter. I said, I want her opinion. I have a dress. It doesn't quite fit me anything.
Hi.
Stop raining for you.
I know. You did such a great job, Kyle. Thank you. Are we closed the rest of the day?
No, they have an event this afternoon, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a big branch that fell.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, off the tree there.
It wasn't that violent.
Well, it's just enough, when you put leaves on the trees, it's just enough with the old branches.
Yeah, that happens to be really dangerous when they come down.
You had a good showing today?
Is this a good, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a good number of people.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
With the rain, I was surprised.
Yep, yep.